Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. I apologize for no video last week. I am still a full-time student and until I graduate, I can't really put all my effort into YouTube, so I am sorry. But this week we're going to be doing something that I know you guys absolutely love, which is looking at horror games that are actually scary. But the scariest part of this video so far is that you haven't installed Opera GX yet. This video is sponsored by the Opera GX browser. Opera has been innovating the browser space for over 25 years. Opera was built by bringing together amazing international teams of developers, coders, researchers, marketers, and support who are all compelled to build the best online experience on any device. Leveraging 25 years of blood, sweat, and product releases at the forefront of building browsers for hundreds of millions of engaged users. Opera GX is on a mission to get people to break up with the boring browsers and have fun while doing it. And now I would like to show you my favorite parts about Opera GX. So Opera GX has these awesome things called mods. As you can see, I have the Fallout New Vegas one installed. Over here on the sidebar, you click this little button which brings you to the mods area. Here are some other ones that I have tried. I just found that the New Vegas one was my favorite. But there's a lot more. Just going over here to go to the store, you can see that there's some with The Boys, there's some summer mods. There are so many to choose from. And these mods are awesome because they actually play noises and... Hold up, is this Josh Hutcherson? So with the Fallout mod, as you can hear, there is music playing in the background, and listen to this. It plays the terminal noise when you type, and even when you backspace. It also makes noises when you close and open tabs. If you're just like me and you want to manage your socials with ease, not going to a separate window to do it, they are all right here on the left side, even having your Discord, which is awesome and I use it all the time. My favorite part of Opera GX is the GX control. I hate when I'm playing a game and my other browsers just suck up all of my RAM and make my games run at horrible frame rates. Another amazing aspect is that there's actually an AI built into the browser, so if you're watching a YouTube video and you want to know how to eat eggs, you could ask them that. I don't know why you would ask them that. There's so many other great things to ask. And with the GX store, which is linked in the description, there are 7,000 mods, which means you could scroll for years and never run out of amazing things to find. What is that? So not only is Opera GX amazing, it is also completely free. So either clicking the link in the description or searching it in the search bar, operagx.gg/Zeark. Remember, it is .gg, not .com. And you can download it through that URL to support the channel. So once again, it is operagx.gg/Zeark, or click the link in the description to get Opera GX today for free. And let me know what your favorite mods are in the comments because there are so many to choose from. With that being said, let's move on to the first horror game in this video. So the first game we will be discussing is Cry of Fear. And just a little bit of background information, I am very aware of this game and I have tried to play it before with a friend, but I remember when we were playing it, we weren't taking it too seriously and we stopped playing it after like 30-40 minutes. I always wanted to come back around and play it for this series and just play it in general, because to me, I've always been a huge fan of Gary's mod. And there was always something so creepy about Gary's mod. Maybe it's just the way it looked, or I don't know, there was always just something there. But the Source and Gold Source engines, especially the old ones, always used to make me feel a little bit uneasy no matter what game I was playing. For example, loading into a Counter-Strike source map by yourself is one of the most atmospheric experiences that you can have, like seriously. So this game really just bundles everything together that I enjoy about old video games, especially old Source games, and it just cranks it to 100, and this game is very scary. I recently got a super thanks by this user right here who told me to go play Cry of Fear, and it popped into my head. I needed to play it for the series, and I'm so happy that I did. So you probably already know Cry of Fear and the story behind it, but if you didn't know, it started off as a mod for Valve's Half-Life. It was initially released in 2012 as a free-to-play mod, but it quickly gained so much popularity because of how amazing it was that it was released by itself. So the story of Cry of Fear revolves around a man named Simon who wakes up in an unknown alley after being hit by a car. As he tries to find his way home, he discovers that the world around him has changed into a nightmarish version of reality. This game is filled with some of the craziest monsters I've ever seen in any game ever, and some of the imagery in this game is just downright disturbing. This game has very heavy themes of mental illness, depression, trauma, and it's told through the environment that you play through during this game. And like I always do, I will tell you my pros and cons because I do not think anything is perfect. Cry of Fear is a very psychologically terrifying game, so if you're not into psychological horror, I'm not sure if you'll find this scary. But if you bunker down, you're in your room late at night, it's raining outside, you turn off all of your lights, this game hits. I played this during a storm like 3 days ago, and it was one of the best gaming experiences I've had in a really long time. And like I said before, there's something about the source environment and the textures and the way it all mends together that just makes me really creeped out. The story can go really deep at times, and I really like how there's just room to make your own interpretation about things. This game really does just feel like a form of art. It really feels like expression. And that's why I was so enamored by it. That's why I love this so much. And the only downside I can really think about is that at some points it did feel like areas were dragging a bit. There was a lot of backtracking. If you know me and what I've discussed before, backtracking is one of my least favorite things. And to its credit, there isn't a whole lot of backtracking, but there is enough to make me kind of be like, all right, I've seen this hallway way too many times. But then again, that could just be my problem because I'm stupid and I forget to grab something in a room. Maybe I wasn't paying attention that much. And I do feel like the enemies throughout the game start to get a little bit less scary once you become more powerful. But the initial first 2 to 3 hours are absolutely terrifying, and I recommend you play this game. I mean, it's free. Anybody can play it. So if you haven't checked this out, definitely do it. And yeah, with that being said, let's move on to the next game in this video. So when I talk about Devour, I want you guys to keep in mind that not everything on this list has to be an amazing game. Nothing needs to be at the standards of Cry of Fear or other games that I have talked about on this list that are full-fledged games that are just amazing. Devour is a game that I find absolutely terrifying, and I seriously could not play it by myself. Devour is more of a co-op game, and I think honestly, if you are looking for a co-op game to play with your friends, definitely check this out if you haven't already. The best way to describe it is almost like you're playing Slender Man, if you guys remember that. Obviously you do, it's massive. It's like playing Slender Man, the 8 pages, with your friends, and there's different monsters every single map that you choose. And these monster designs are absolutely I mean, look at some of these. These are terrifying. I used to play this game all the time with some friends on Discord, and every single time we played it, it has been terrifying just like the first time. It's one of those games that makes you curl your toes when something's chasing you or you know it's right around the corner. And they sound absolutely horrifying in this. Just recording the gameplay for this, I had to play by myself. I was shivering in my timbers. And like I said, this isn't the magnum opus of horror games. This isn't gonna change your perspective on life. It's just a scary game that I recommend that people at least try. I feel like although you are doing the same thing in these levels, there is enough content to make this game worth the purchase, especially if you have friends to play with and you're not lonely all the time like me. My favorite level in this game is probably the first and the second level. I love the character designs. I love that not everything is super complex. Like the first mission, you're literally just like cooking up some goats in a cauldron. And there's a lady who doesn't want you to do that, and she is freaky as hell, and it is so much fun. And also, one of my favorite parts is just like theorizing with your friends the best way to complete these things, how to do them the most efficiently. It's just a great game. And although I wouldn't say it's a perfect game, and I wouldn't say it's the best horror game ever made, it really is just so much fun, and it is scary, and yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't. This game is what Phasmophobia is to other people who explain it to me. I tried to play Phasmophobia a handful of times and I just found it boring and not scary at all. And then I played Devour and it was like what I was expecting Phasmophobia to be. They're completely different, whatever. Let's just move on to the next game. Now this is new for this series, having an honorable mention. And I felt like I needed to include this game because I was so impressed by it, but unfortunately the game and its design and the way the gameplay works was not for me. But I seriously do feel like this game fits a niche of gamer that isn't me, that I need for you to play if you're a horror fan and you love this type of gameplay. The game that I'm discussing is Amnesia: The Bunker. Now before I get into my positives, I will just tell you why this game isn't for me. I felt as if the intro of the game was amazing and the first couple minutes were great, but like I said in the Cry of Fear area, I hate backtracking. And that's essentially what this whole entire game is, and trust me, I really did try to enjoy this game. I live by the philosophy if I put more than like 2 or 3 hours into a game and I'm not enjoying it, I do put it down. Life is too short to spend your time doing things you don't enjoy. But as I was playing it, I was so impressed. Genuinely, I was very impressed. Whether it was the small things like different animations for certain items you were holding. I know like nobody cares, but like, look at this just animation work. So you do it without a gun, you take your gun out, you charge a flashlight. It like changes the whole animation. It's just little stuff like that. Little stuff adds up. I'll tell you what. Or the way the world interacts with the monster and the things around you. I'm afraid to charge my flashlight, dude. If I do this, I may awaken the monster. He's awake. I was also really impressed with the storytelling in this world just through map design alone. Dude, there's a grenade on the door. The environmental storytelling in this game is really cool. Now what happens if I open this? That answers that. And I think the setting, the atmosphere is almost perfectly done for that set genre of game. And there were parts where I was actually scared while playing the game, but I didn't feel right making it its own section, adding it to the list of these games, because I didn't particularly enjoy the game that much. But I'm putting it here because yes, it does deserve an honorable mention. I can see how this would be amazing for someone else. So if you like games like Resident Evil where you have to go around, collect items just to get to the next part and figure out what you're supposed to do, definitely check this game out. I think you will really enjoy it. So yeah, let's move on to the final game in this video. So Forbidden Siren, also known as Siren in Japan, is a very interesting game and there's a lot to go over with it. That's why it makes up such a big bulk of this video. So although I did say before that I'm not a huge fan of survival horror games, there are some that stick out that make me want to play them. And this really is a testament to how good these games are, that I'm not a huge survival horror game fan, but if I play the game and finish it in that genre, and it has a lot of backtracking, that just tells you how much I really did enjoy this game. For instance, Fatal Frame, which I played in the previous iteration of this video, was a survival horror game with tons of backtracking, and I absolutely enjoyed basically every second of that game. And I feel like Siren kind of falls into the same category. This will be a more structured discussion of the game, breaking down its story, gameplay, some backstory about the development, and some things that I found very interesting about this game. And going forward, I will be calling it Siren instead of Forbidden Siren, just so I don't stutter every single time I try to say it, because goddamn I cannot talk while recording this video. So breaking down the story of this game, it is a little bit hard to discuss. It's very fragmented, it's very broken apart, and that's because it doesn't follow one main character. This initially stuck out to me very profoundly and kept me super engaged as soon as I started the game. The moment I was flipping perspectives, usually I'm not a huge fan of that, but for some reason in this game, it made me want to learn more about these characters that I was playing as. The story is very complex and it's super non-linear, so watch out for that if you want to play this game. Each chapter or mission that you play in this game is shown on a calendar, I'm pretty sure. You play certain days, certain times of the days through different characters, and yes, it does get quite confusing, at least for me it did. But it's really weird going back to these games that try things that are experimental. I feel like nothing in the AAA sphere actually comes out these days that is anything of the past. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, but going back and seeing stuff like this that doesn't just cater to a wider audience and is just more streamlined is very engaging. It's kind of weird that I feel like I have to take a step back from games that are coming out today, which are supposed to be more expensive, better for the player, and I'm enjoying these different styles of gameplay and the way it's presented to the player. Although this game was only developed by 40 people, it was still released by Sony Computer Entertainment in 2003. Everyone knows Sony, so I'm not going to consider this a indie game, but indie games these days are still touching on the aspects that aren't exactly for mainstream consuming, which is the AAA sphere that we have now. I just wish we could go back to a time where AAA games were actually trying something new. Sorry for that little spiel, let's get back on track here. So you're playing through these days, these hours of the days, and a bunch of different stories. It's really cool. This game takes place in a village in Japan named Hanuda Village. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. This village's atmosphere is just so strong. It is dreadful, it is dreary, dark, so mysterious. You never really know what's around every single corner, and even if you do, you're probably completely wrong. Basically, as you're playing this, I would almost equate it to the feeling of playing Silent Hill. It's that dreary and it's that mysterious. The story begins when a group of outsiders, including journalists and researchers, arrive in Hanuta. They become entangled in this series of bizarre events triggered by a ritual performed by the villagers in the village. This ritual awakens a powerful, malevolent force, plunging the village into chaos. I remember initially loading this game up, and the intro scene for this game and the cutscenes, I would even say, is scarier than every single one of these games in this video combined. This game nails the uneasiness of the uncanny valley with the characters' faces. Siren was very innovative when it came to facial capture technology. It was one of the earliest adopters of motion capture, which is a regular in every single game you play today. The developers used a combination of traditional motion capture techniques and manual animation to create the facial expression of the characters. Because it was so advanced for its time, and it looked nothing like how PS2 graphics looked when it comes to facial animations, it really added to an unsettling feeling when you look at their emotions and the way they act. It was super uncanny, especially for the time. The developers actually used photogrammetry techniques to create realistic character models. That's why their faces look like this, and yeah, it is really unnerving. It was actually said that it was a deliberate use of the uncanny, that's why they did it. The enemies in this game are called the Shibito, I believe, and they are undead villagers, but don't mix them up with typical zombies. They retain memories and behaviors from their former lives, making them more disturbing and really unpredictable. They can't be killed permanently, as they will eventually revive after being defeated. And the facial expressions that these villagers make are so disturbing to watch. They flip through different emotions, through anger, anxiety, being scared at some points. Their faces, you just can't tell what they're thinking because it just changes on a dime every single second. Mixed with the photogrammetry that they use to make the faces act the way they do, it is really disturbing to watch. And I know that there are two different versions of this game. One of them is censored and one of them is not. To tell you honestly, I am not completely sure as to which version I was playing because I cannot make the comparisons of the differences between the two versions. But from what I saw, a lot of things were disturbing, a lot of things I think would have been censored if it was the censored version, but I'm not entirely sure. So depending on what version you play, the Japanese version or the American version, you might get the scarier or less scarier. I don't know, I guess it depends. But when it comes to the American version, obviously one of the biggest downsides is the voice acting. Some of it is complete ass. And yes, sometimes it does take you out of the moment, but I feel like it kind of adds to the charm of this game. And if it came out today, maybe I would think differently, but this is the PS2 era. I expected something like this. And there are some parts of this game that are a little bit frustrating. This game has a very heavy trial and error approach. You're basically supposed to mess up to figure out what you're supposed to do next time you revive or load into your save. And to me, trial and error is not something I'm uncommon with. I've played Dark Souls games my whole life. I'm a huge fan of them. But the thing that separates it from this game and that game with trial and error is that the controls in this game are absolutely horrible. I hated the controls. It was very clunky, it was very unresponsive. You basically don't have a button prompt for anything unless you click, triangle? I was using an Xbox controller, so you basically have to hit triangle over something random and then it'll pop up to pick up the thing that you're looking at in the area, and sometimes it just didn't work. Call it a skill issue, call me a bot, I don't care. I did not like the controls in this game. So yes, the really bad controls, in my opinion, did bog the experience down a little bit, but the horror and the fear was so intuitive and smart that it kind of engulfed the controls and I completely forgot about it. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't even recommend playing this game. I would say if you wanted the best experience out of this, go and watch someone play it, and I'm not even kidding. That's how bad the controls are. There were parts where I was playing this game and I was like, wow, this would be a great movie. I would love to watch a walkthrough on this, but a no commentary playthrough is what you should watch. Also, depending on your actions and how you do things throughout the game, you can have multiple endings, which I feel like is very ambitious for the time that this came out. It also adds another layer of replay value if you want to attempt to get all the different endings in this, which is a plus. We'll add it to the plus board. Another immediate standout for me was the sound design in this game. They use some creepy ass audio, like distorted voices, there's creepy environmental sounds, and there's an amazing eerie soundtrack that really does contribute to the game's oppressive atmosphere. And I'm not sure how new this technology was around this time. I'm assuming it was probably a couple years old, but there was amazing binaural audio techniques that were used in this game. You could hear things behind you, to your right, to your left. I know it's just something we have now, but back then I couldn't imagine hearing that for the first time. And another thing I want to add before I wrap this up is that this game was actually inspired by David Lynch and John Carpenter's film work, which, if you don't know, they are master classes when it comes to horror, and it really shows through this game. Overall, this is a very terrifying and dark game, and I really do suggest that you either watch it or attempt to play it, but I would recommend watching it instead, which I know is crazy to say about a game. I believe there is actually a sequel to this game, which I'm definitely gonna check it out. I've heard it is much better than the first game, and it might make the list next time I make a video like this. Also, I don't know how I forgot to add this part to the video. There's a mechanic in the game called mind jacking. Basically, you jack into people's minds and you can see through their eyes. It's a weird little mechanic. I know it's hit or miss. Some people like it, some people don't. I thought it was kind of cool. And this is like a random little side note. Do you guys remember that game where you could mind jack people? That was absolute dog shit. Do you guys remember that? Okay, anyway, sorry. I just forgot to add that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you got a scary recommendation that you enjoyed after watching this video. And also keep in mind, this is just my opinion. Your opinion may differ. Let's keep it civil in the comments, and let's discuss our favorite horror games without putting other people down. I hope everyone here has a great day, great night, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.